In this video, I will discuss how to do some creative editing to your photographs for the Bluvember photo challenge. So for digital photography students, you'll be submitting 3 images that explore the theme of blue, and for the intro to digital media students, you can do photographs or your own unique composition. So let's get started. So there's a couple different things that you can do quite easily with some non-destructive edits to the image. So this is my original image. So a couple different things that I can do is using my adjustments in my adjustments panel here, I can change the look of the image in several different ways. So this just gives you kind of a preview of what those might look like. You can do a combination of these if that works for you. So I'm just going to quickly go over those. So the first thing I can do is hue and saturation, where I can just create a new adjustment layer for that. So you can just adjust the slider, but you're not going to get the control that you necessarily want. Maybe you will. But you can click on colorize and then adjust the slider from there, so it'll give the whole image an overall adjustment to the color until you get a look that you like. Once you get to the shade of blue that you like, you can increase the saturation, making the blue brighter or more intense. You can also play with the lightness or the darkness of the image to get the look that you like. So that is one way of adjusting your image. The next would be to go over to color balance. So here again, actually, wait a minute, let me just turn that off. Oops. Turn this off, turn this back on. Okay. I can adjust my cyan and my blue slider to just give a more, blue feeling. This is something that you would do to correct an image if the white balance was off on your camera. But this can also be used to exaggerate that blue feeling. So you can play around with that function as well. Then there would be the black and white adjustment layer, where you can actually add a tint, which we did talk about previously, but I can click here on this little color swatch and I can select the exact shade of blue that I want for my image, and you can go all over the place wherever you want and figure out what's going to look the best for your image. And then after black and white, you could also try, depending on your image, the photo filter. So you could actually just change the color here to a blue. You can change the density, and maybe you need to adjust that further to get the look that you want. You can also use one of the filters here. They actually have a blue one. You could try cyan too, because that's technically a bluish color. Making it look like it's underwater. It's maybe too greenish. There's also cooling filters. So again, there's no set thing that's going to work for your image, so you have to experiment a little bit. Okay. One of the ones that I really like is the gradient map. I think that allows for a lot of creativity and control over your image. So what we're going to do is add a gradient map adjustment, and by default mine went to my foreground background colors, but when you first open this up, you might have these pre-installed gradients, which are pretty horrible as far as your image. You can have like magical rainbow picture, but what you can do is, if you click on this little gear here, you can add the photographic toning gradients. I'm just going to hit OK and actually forget that. We won't save it. Okay. The photographic toning, and they have some blue ones in here pre-installed. There's blue 1, blue 2, there's cyanotype, which is what we did with those photograms. But maybe one of these will look really cool for your image. So click around and play, or what you can do too is create your own. So I'm just going to get rid of some of these. So you can use black, or maybe you want to just use a really dark blue. And maybe you want to adjust this so it's brighter. Okay, and you can actually make your own gradients. So I'm going to hit cancel, but even if I was just here, regardless of my presets, I could change these according to my image and what I wanted it to look like. Okay, and that sort of creates like a negative image. You could actually hit OK and then just hit reverse over here. Okay, so play around with that as well. What else? Okay, so in this image, I'm going to do, so here's the black and white adjustment layer with the tint. Another thing that you can do is you can actually hit Command J and duplicate your layer. And then if you double click on it, or you click on this little FX button here, you can do a color overlay. Select the color that you want to use, and by default it's probably going to be on normal, so when you do this your screen will turn blue and you're like, oh no, where'd my image go? And that's where you change your blend modes to different functions to do what you want it to do for your image. Okay, you can also just adjust opacity here as well, but they all have different effects. So again, you're gonna have to play around with what looks best for your image. Hue tends to work pretty well for this particular assignment, as does color. And again, you can fine-tune the color, except for when your computer freezes. Okay, to get the look that you want. Okay. And here as well, you can change the opacity. So I have my original background layer, which is pretty warm, orangey tone to it. And by adjusting the opacity, you know, you can make that blue kind of subtle or make it very blue. It's up to you. Okay. Another technique you can try is the duotone. So the first thing you need to do for this is make sure that your image is actually in grayscale. So this was the original image. Let's turn that off. That's the original image, and I just went to image mode and selected grayscale, and then I saved a copy of it here. So now I have the grayscale. So from here I can go to image mode duotone. Now duotone is really something that people that are sending their work to be printed need to worry about, but this is also just a fun way to get some cool photographic looks to your images. So first convert it to grayscale, then you can go to the duotone, and there's actually 4. You could do monotone, so that's one color. So from right here I could just click on the blue. Okay, or if I did duotone, and I can select another shade of blue or hue, get a totally different look that way. There's also tritone. The thing here is you're going to have to name these colors, unless you pick from like the color libraries and actually pick the Pantone colors. Pantone colors are what printers use to tell them exactly what inks to use. So you can do that too if you just want to click on color libraries, and you can find different shades of blue that way. It's up to you. Okay. Then there's quad tone, so that actually gives you 4 colors to play with. So you could get, maybe you want to add a little bit of warmth to your image. Let's see. Add a little bit of a creamy tone to it, Oops. I'll just change it back to tritone and then hit OK. Now the problem with this is a destructive edit, so that you want to make sure when you're working with the duotone in this method, you save a copy. So file, save as, and then change the file name, maybe include grayscale or duotone or something like that in the file name to make sure that you decide you're like, ooh, I don't really like this. You can go back and you have the original intact image, and you can go from there. Another thing I want to show you just really quickly is if you go to Window, Extensions, and Adobe Color Themes, this is kind of a cool thing here. You can actually use these to help you in deciding what shades of blue you want to use, and you can actually select the images here. So we've talked a little bit about color theory, so if you click here on color rule, this gives you some of the popular color themes. So analogous is 3 to 5 colors in a row on the color wheel. So you can actually pick this up, and if you just scooch this over a little bit, you're going to get 3 to 5 colors that are related to one another based on where they are on the color wheel. And you can get some tints, that's color plus white, or go back out to the full saturation. You can also do some shades by adding black. You can do monochromatic, which is one color plus black and white. Triadic, which is a triangle, so you can go around. We do want to stick to blue for this particular project, so you might want to stick with analogous and monochromatic. You could also do shades, and that'll give you some interesting colors to work with. So you could save this. You could also just click on Explore and find some colors that you like that work well together, like maybe these 3 colors would look nice in your image, and if you use that, you can just click on it and that will become your active color. So then you can use that. I can hit X on my keyboard and select the other color, and then use that to create my gradient maps if I wanted to do that. Okay, so that's just a fun little thing that you can look at and explore. So just to review, you can do hue and saturation. So that's one version. Actually, here, let me get rid of okay. So here's my hue and saturation adjustment. And then here's a different one I did. Then there's the color balance, where you'll still have a little bit of the color showing through, but you can control it quite nicely. Black and white plus a tint. The photo filters, and you can really experiment with some of the presets there, or make your own colors. The gradient map. And I should say here, the gradient map, by having a nice dark rich blue, a middle blue, and the white, and you can adjust these sliders where you want them to go. Maybe you want to have more white here so that you get some detail in the image. Maybe you want to change this a little bit. You can add another stop here as well to get a little bit more variation in your image if that's what you want. Okay, so you can totally customize your gradients, so it's definitely something you want to think about as you're working, and you can always just pick one of these and then customize from there. So maybe you want to just make this a little bit, you know, bluer, and that's going to slightly change it. Okay, and again, you can also from here you can play with the opacity of your adjustments or the way that it blends, okay, to get the perfect looking image. So all of these tools and techniques can be used for future projects to help unify your work or just to add an interesting look to an image depending on what you're trying to convey through your imagery. So definitely explore all of these options. Again, you can also do the mode and then the duotone to get some other effects as well. So be creative, don't be afraid to play, and as you're working, just make sure you're saving a different copy of the image, so if you do something that you're not very happy with, you can always go back to the original. Okay, always file save as. Okay, so have fun with this, and I look forward to seeing your creative blue images.